On behalf of the Mission Agenda Committee, welcome to our spring mission evening. I'm Patrick Jendrasic. I've been sharing in the charisma ministry of the community of St. Joseph since the mid-70s. I was happy to see a shout out to Bernadette Eaton. I saw you on my screen earlier. Bernadette was across the hallway from me at the boys' home in Chicago back in the mid to late 70s. I made my associate commitment, I guess nearly 25 years ago, and I'm happy to serve as a member of the Mission Committee. The Mission Agenda Committee was formed as a result of the 2022 chapter. Inspired by our CSJ mission statement, to live in profound love of God and neighbor without distinction, the Mission Agenda Committee puts form and substance into our spring, summer, and fall mission meetings for community. And so I wanted to introduce the other members of the committee. I think we have a slide with that. So we have Mary Armbrust, who's the Director of Association, Mary Sue G., who's an associate out of St. Louis, myself, Kathleen Karbowski, who's a liaison from the incoming leadership team, Patty Kohlers, our support staff, and of course, Fran Mayer, our liaison from the outgoing team, Linda Mazer, Pat Murphy, and Margaret Schultz, who's also a liaison from the outgoing leadership team. Our format for this evening is fairly straightforward. Mary Sue is going to lead us, and she will be followed by Pat Murphy, and Pat will introduce our theme. There'll be a short presentation before we go into our breakout rooms for small group discussion. Thanks to Jenny Beatrice and all of our Zoom technologists. And then we'll gather back together in large group sharing for a short time for some sharing and to reflect on our experience. So Mary Sue, let me turn to you so you can draw us together in prayer.
Okay, let's take a minute just to center ourselves.
The lamps are different, but the light is the same. So many garish lamps in the dying grain's lamp show. Forget about them. Concentrate on the essence. Concentrate on the light. And Lucidia splits calmly smoke off its own holy fire. The light streams toward you from all things, all people, all possible permutations of good, evil, thoughts, passion. The lamps are different, but the light is the same. One matter, one energy, one light mind, endless illuminating all things. One turning, burning diamond, one. Ground yourself, strip yourself down to blind, loving silence. Stay there until you see you are gazing at the light with its own ageless eyes.
Ignite the mission. Notice the graphic, the butterfly, the wings, a tiny flutter. Give wings to your sense of mission. Remember the influence of the butterfly's flutter. It moves the air a small bit, but that small wind moves and joins other winds. There's a phrase that says, I'm not dead till I'm dead. So my mission isn't over until I'm dead. How do you live your mission at this time. Be sure not to confuse your ministry with your mission. Tonight, we hope to fan into flame your creative thinking about how you live your mission together with all who belong to the community of St. Joseph. We are in mission together. May your fire be lit and joined to others.
There are many places throughout the province where the fire has been ignited, and sisters and associates are in mission together. Tonight, we are highlighting just one of those, Okolona, Mississippi. We invited Sister Liz Brown in Okolona, Mississippi, and Associate Marge Mattice in Green Bay, Wisconsin, to share their experiences in Okolona. Both have been involved in many ministries in different places. After service as a teacher and principal, and then director of evangelization and growth, Liz Brown started in Okolona over 30 years ago as a pastoral leader with the primary duty of regathering the dispersed Catholic community and assessing growth potential for the church. 3 years into the pastoral position, a small group comprised equally of members of the National Council of Negro Women and local white women, launched a summer program for children in Okolona called Excel, which has grown in expectations, beyond expectations, in its over 35 years of existence. Liz says that though the capital C Catholic Church has not grown for many reasons, the small c Catholic Church, inclusive, universal, has flourished. Now there are many persons from across the province and across the country who go to Okolona to volunteer. One of these volunteers is Marge Mattice, who is a retired nurse practitioner from Green Bay, Wisconsin. She is a member of the Province Racial and Cultural Justice Committee and will be seated as chair of the Associate Leadership Board next month. She has worked also at the border with our border ministry team and has been on several mission trips to Okolona. Please welcome Liz and Marge.
In the interest of full disclosure, I have to clarify something from the beginning. A lot of times people say to me, "You had such a vision." I would like to say, no, I did not. I began in Okolona, as Linda was saying, pastoring this small church, trying to figure out even what growth potential meant. And there were many, there are only so many times you can visit 5 families without them hiding it when they see you coming. So I did a lot of walking in neighborhoods and listening to both parishioners and community people, did a lot of observing, trying to understand this white-dominated community and its politics. And getting to know a variety of people and hear their perspectives on things. And as Linda said, after 3 years, we had an opportunity for the service of 3 college students for 5 weeks during the summer. So we joined with our friends from the National Council of Negro Women to see what the needs were that we could respond to together. On equal footing, creating a whole new model. Clearly, the need was in the area of education, especially summer education for children. Now, that was the last thing I wanted to pursue, to be honest with you. I had been a teacher, I had been a principal, and I knew the complexities of education. So if you think that was my vision, it was not. But the dropout rate in the town at that time was 68% high school dropouts. We had children coming to that summer program who were 14 years old and were in second grade because they had been retained so frequently. And the nightmares just went on and on. So summer education program it was. So as I said, I didn't come with a vision. I was just part of a community of people who were committed to a need, and the vision was born out of that. And we did this modeling what Black and white people can do, working together on equal footing, and what we can achieve doing that. Now, as some of you know, that first summer, we had no money, no space, no salaried staff, excuse me, and yet we pulled it off. This little seat of the pants program was successful beyond our imagination. There was a creative energy that we could feel stirring up and moving about, energizing people around a passion and extending the number of participants in that energy realm. And so at the end of that first summer, 85 local people were engaged in the mission. 25 churches of a variety of denominations were engaged in the mission. So it was about gathering people who shared the passion and who were committed to the need. Now, the success of this seemingly inconsequential summer learning program made the steering committee think we could do anything. And over 35 years, what started as that summer program has grown into after-school learning programs started by Nancy Corcoran and Joan Phillip. We have adult literacy program. We had for a while a federal grant for a GED program for high school dropouts. And we're very proud to say that 123 young people got their GEDs with us, and 75% of them went on to college. We also have a resale store, a senior activity center, 4 senior apartments, a kids clinic, a certified nurse assistant preparation program. In that program, we currently have 75 graduates, and 98% of those are currently in the healthcare workforce. We have also a small homeless shelter and an emergency response office. During the course of the years, we house and engage approximately 80 out-of-town volunteers and about 125 local volunteers. And we have volunteers and benefactors from 21 states. Excel continues to operate with the staff and board members serving in equal numbers of Black and white. We don't have, those are our primary cultures in the town. The only cultures, really. Included on our boards are all, we also engage people who are economically poor and people of means and people of various religious denominations. And that combination, that diverse combination, has really made all the difference. We're also very grateful for how leadership over the years and associates and sisters have been supportive of us in various ways. So I would have to say, I feel like the mission has been ignited. I think Excel is an example of what Maya Angelou meant when she talked about stepping out on the word of God. And what Marion Wright Edelman said, in this time and in this place, by God's grace, we can make a difference. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the privilege of sharing with you tonight. It is at once hopeful and exciting to be talking and exploring the idea of mission with all of you and praying together about what this means for us as the community of St. Joseph. You know, I looked the word mission up in the dictionary, and it was interesting definition. It's defined as an important assignment, typically involving travel. Certainly travel was involved in my trips to Okolona, about 12 hours one way to be exact. But as I thought about that, I realized there's another dimension to mission and travel, more than just the physical miles that you put on. There's also a spiritual traveling or journeying that takes place for those involved in mission. You know you're not the same after any journey you embark on. And Okolona is notorious for changing those who volunteer. Chickasaw County in Mississippi is one of the poorest counties in the United States. One of the opportunities for first-timers to Okolona is a tour of the town with Sisters Liz and Nancy. You travel past outsheds that some people live in for homes. You visit an abandoned pool that was a battleground over racial integration. You pass by a 3-story school, the top floor unsafe for use, but the bottom 2 floors where the children come to learn, using shared textbooks because there aren't enough to go around. You see remnants of factories which were once part of a thriving clothing and furniture industry, which made this town at one time very economically secure. There was still one smaller furniture factory in operation until this past Thanksgiving Day, when 700 of the employees who worked there woke to a text or an email telling them not to bother coming to work because they no longer had a job. And there's a Confederate flag flying over a cemetery with graves of unnamed soldiers, no one knowing their names or where they were from. And when you go to Okolona, the week is full of things that need to be done. You can get soaked with your hair full of paint flecks as you power wash a shed that's part of the new shelter for domestic abuse and homeless, one of the latest Excel projects that Liz had referred to. You can play with the children of those who seek safety there and provide encouragement to a single mom with children who are seeking a better way of life. You can do yard work and house maintenance for Mrs. Young, a very elderly rural Mississippi resident needing her carport power washed and some yard work done. And we shared stories with her. And we asked her how old she was, and she just laughed and said, "I have children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. You figure it out." You can attend the annual health fair at the XL Community Center, screening for hypertension, providing them with information on exercise, diet, and nutrition so they can make better choices. You get to work side by side with some of those nursing assistant students that are enrolled in the CNA program that XL was able to bring about to provide meaningful employment. Read dignity. This program developed in conjunction with local community colleges does more than just provide classes. Participants are provided with a lunch on class days, and if they need help with transportation, they will get it. They are asked to pay $100 to enter the program, and this gets refunded to them on successful completion of the program. And as Liz said, their placement is 98%. Oh, excuse me. And also for an elderly lady with mobility issues confined to her mobile home, because there was basically no safe way in or out, you can tear down the old unsafe steps and build something new. Price to take out the old foundation and put in new bricks for a base, $10. Price for lumber for new steps, $65.
Phew.
The look on her face when she steps out and sees her new steps, priceless. Or you can help out at one-of-a-kind thrift shop, part of the Excel Commons, excuse me, that make many of the necessities of life affordable to local residents. Items which many of you have helped donate are sold, with the profits going to an after-school tutoring program, assisting children with study skills for a successful education and future. My apologies, I've been battling a cold. Or you might be asked to pick up a few pieces of furniture from a storage shed in Tupelo that need to make it to Okolona, which is about a 25-mile trip. It's a lot of furniture that takes many trips back and forth. Sorry. And as Liz has confirmed, it is clear that God does the providing. Excuse me, the success of the work in Okolona is based on the understanding that the needs of the time are the will of God. Okolona is a prime example of responding to the needs of the people. The after-school tutoring, domestic abuse shelter, the CNA training program, and all that makes up Excel. In closing, participating in a week in Okolona is not just a feel-good, pat yourself on the back experience. Our last evening there ended with a prayer service reflecting on what our previous days were about. Part of the
Why
reflection
don't you
was,
stop and blow your nose?
oh, I'm okay, it's my throat.
Oh,
When you
sorry.
get to the pearly gates, you won't be asked, what was your highest level of education? Or how much money did you make? Or how many boards of directors were you on? The question will be, who are you bringing with you? Yes, we will be bringing those whose lives were made better by our encounters. But as vowed religious and associates sharing in mission, we bring each other home together.
Thank you, Marge and Liz, for your willingness to share and for your call and how you've been willing to go deeper, journey farther, respond boldly, and dare to be prophetic. Let us all of us take a moment right now to reflect on the mission in our lives. We're going to be going into small group sharing. So we first allow the Spirit to do her work in our midst. After our small group discussion, we'll have the opportunity to share in the larger group some of the insights that we gained in the small groups. In addition, because everyone's input is important and valuable, this gathering is being recorded and will be available for those who have not had the chance to participate, along with the opportunity to share their reflection. And we're going to also be sending out to everybody who's participating tonight another reflection sheet to think about what you've heard tonight and how it's moved you in terms of furthering the mission. So we'll be in breakout groups for about 30 minutes. You'll all have copies of the questions that we'll be discussing. And you can discuss them in any order. And we just ask that everybody gets a chance to participate. We know how all of that works in the small groups. I'm going to read the questions briefly before we do break into the small groups. And it might be helpful if you have not printed out the questions beforehand, it might be helpful to just remember the three words that start each of these questions. First, ignite. In the light of the 2022 Province Chapter Direction Statement and the 2019 Congregational Acts of Chapter, briefly share how the mission has already been ignited in your life. 2, change. Mission often changes us more than it changes the people whom we serve. We become the change we want to see in the world. Name one way that living the mission has changed you. And 3, grow. How has the companionship of other members of the community of St. Joseph, Bowed and Associates, sharing in this mission influenced your personal spiritual growth? And now we'll be going into small groups.
So welcome back. We want to take some time, probably about 15 to 20 minutes, so it's not a great amount of time, to process what we heard in our small groups, things that, what was energizing, what spoke to us about igniting the mission, what was surprising that you heard. What kinds of things do you think would be good for all of us to hear about? Now, we know that we'll all have individually the opportunity to send in reflections and evaluations, but is there anything you'd like to share in the large group?
Dorothy Dempsey. Thank you, Dorothy. You're on mute, Dorothy. Now you're not.
Okay.
Great.
Did you want me to speak on some of the things that we shared in our group?
You can share something of your own or something from the group that you are interested in having the whole group here.
Okay, I'll share something. I'll let someone else share from the group. What I did though is I was thinking about the mission of the Sisters of St. Joseph and what we're all about. And I happened to hear Denzel Washington. It was something that they're doing. And he had some quotes that I'd like to share with you all, because it's so much a part of us as in what we're doing. The number one quote was, keep God first in your life. Number 2, always look on the other side of the mirror. Number 3, small minds discuss other people. Number 4, don't confuse movements with progress. Number 5, fail big. Each day is a new day. And number 6, dream without goals, because you might be in for disappointment. So I think when you think about us as community and what we are about, all are about spiritually, I think that applies. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Dorothy. Next, we have Judy Miller.
One of the things that came in our group was to say, talk about the value of the web of communication that we have, that we become, and all of us can say we get excited about and ignited about mission. And we talked about the distinction between mission and ministry, but we get excited about mission more easily because of the web of communication that we have by so many things, that we know what's going on, what was sent out and from Carondelet. And I think of that as really the way to go in the future. So I would hope that all the meetings even coming up, we can have this kind of format that so that everybody can participate, like on Zoom, as opposed to physical presence. Physical presence has its value, but we lose something by excluding people who cannot be physically present.
Thank you, Judy. Next, we have Sister Barbara Jennings at Carondelet. Thank you.
We talked somewhat about the hope for women in the future and what are we offering them for our mission and how do we offer it. And we talked about the concept of the common good, that we're not only doing charity, but we're doing justice. For instance, our own experiences in direct service, but also in legislative work, to get to the systems of why people are poor, why we don't educate children very well in this country. What about racism? How are we changing as a nation because of knowing so much more now about racism? So the balance between charity and doing justice, legislative, working with corporations, seeing the changes that have happened, only because people demand change, that's when it happens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who else would like to share? Type your name in the chat or raise your hand and we'll try to find you. Karen. You are on mute.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yes.
And this may be even a follow-up to something Judy said, but what really struck me in my group is we talked about ministry versus mission, and they're not exactly the same. I think mission is what draws us and what leads us, and it doesn't change very much, where ministry is a way of being in that mission. And our ministry changes, our mission shouldn't change very often. And mission, my mission has changed many times in my life and moved in many different ways. But as I was able to put the words of CSJ around what mission really is, to love our neighbor without distinction, I look back on those ministries and see how they fit or didn't fit. Most of them did fit in many ways, but now I really have a mission that defines what that ministry needs to be. And that ministry could be something as simple as my family to the world. And that mission is something that I can grab onto and not change with, but keep growing in. So mission versus ministry said a lot to me.
Thank you, Sharon. Who else would like to share? Anyone else? Mary.
What I was struck by in our sharing in our small group is how critical it is for all of us to be faithful to the mission. We need to be supportive of one another in a way that is inviting, encouraging, accepting, that we are the dear neighbor to one another as well. And that out of how we interact with each other will say volume to whatever service we're involved in. And so I'm taking away from our sharing how critically important it is for all of us to be willing to be invited and to be responsive to others as we pursue our common mission.
Thank you, Mary Margaret. Next, Pat Murphy.
That one. We had, here at the village, we have the sisters gathering once a month. And this past month, we had Nancy Corcoran, I guess she's here someplace, as a speaker. And we invited all of the lay people here as well. And the talk about LGBT and how Nancy works a lot with the parents of the LGBT community. It opened up a conversation that ordinarily we would not have here, because we try not to talk politics and religion ordinarily. But you could almost feel the openness in that room. What I get to though is the next day, I was at a table with 5 other people and the topic came up again. I didn't bring it up. One of the lay people brought it up, finding a need to still consider it. And I think that's part of mission, is being open and willing to listen and contribute. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Pat. Next, we have Michelle Becker.
Yeah.
And you are on mute.
Well, okay. I have to say that Ministry and Mission and our group talked about that and how our different ages and how we are retired and not retired and what the future holds. But we still know our ministry may continue in some form or another. The mission is there. And so I guess if we want to, for me personally, getting back into ministry, because the mission is still there and I can still help, and what does the future hold for us, and missing community and our small groups. I said I'm in a group that I talk with others from the group and we just kind of yearn to be together. The whole community part of it is pulling us together. And we want to be there more than once a month. So there's really some spark and energy that we feel in my our small group this is what I shared with our group here tonight.
Thank you.
No. Nancy Corcoran.
Yes, thanks, Pat. In our group, we talked about Dr. Sean Copeland and the critique she gave us of the beautiful words that we have on our webpage. But I don't remember her exact words, but it was like, there's no meat. So we had these wonderful words about working with women. I'm thinking of the 19th chapter. And, but there's no like how to do it. And even on the 2022, the only thing that really's got some force seemingly behind it is criminal justice reform. You can understand what that is. I have not a clue what they mean with immigration. There's no meat there. With forced migration, it's just a statement of a fact. Racism, do we really want to promote racism? The environment, there's no words. So I just thought that was a wonderful critique. And for us to really look at the words and see, not that people aren't doing it, but we're not expressing it in the words. We're always doing the ideal or some concept, but not the meat of the subjects that we need to look at.
Thank you very much. And we have time for one more, Sean Madigan. You are on mute, Sean.
Our delightful group shared recent diversity of invitations to love that came our way through the people we meet, and whether associates or sisters sharing the same question of Jesus, do you love me? In the many ways we face that question in people every day. So thank you, group.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for your sharing. And remember, you will have an opportunity to give your feedback through a feedback form that will be coming. Okay, so we are ready to close, and I will bring it to Sister Pat once again.
Well, we thank you for your participation this evening. We hope that you will do a response, a feedback, give us some feedback, because that will help us in planning for our summer assembly and our fall gathering. And in the meantime, we hope you will keep what you learned tonight, the concept of mission, before your eyes. Keep your fire burning. And remember that together we are more. We will now close with a song. We ask you to stay muted and sing along. This Little Light of Mine. It is sung by Odetta Holmes, who is a renowned gospel singer of the civil rights movement.